under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you all very much for that. We will now turn to the proclamations and presentations portion of tonight's agenda. And the first we have tonight is the police commissioning and award ceremony. For this, we have Chief Zarro.
Thank you, Mayor Whalen and council members, and thank you guests for coming tonight. This is something that we've done for several years now. I was swear in our new folks in front of the city council. We think it's a very positive thing, and it's good to share with our council. And it also never hurts for our officers to know what our council members look like. So tonight we have an exceptionally large group. We have, believe it or not, 10 entry-level officers, which is the largest amount of hiring we've done since we started in 2004. And it is an incredibly positive environment when you have that many new people coming in with the enthusiasm and the positive energy that they bring. And then along with them, we have several lateral officers that have come from other agencies to come work with Lakewood. In addition to those officers, you'll also see two of our detectives who are recently promoted who will also be sworn in. So all in all, a very positive night, and one that, you'll see the number of officers that come up. We started as a department in 2004, and I was here when we started, and we really have not seen this kind of hiring since then. So it is definitely the building blocks for the future of the department from here. And I'm just privileged and thrilled to be able to do that, to be able to share it with you all and with the council and Mayor Whalen. So with that, what I'm going to do is call up our entry-level officers first. I'll call you up by name, and then just please line up in front of the dais like we talked about, and then we'll get you sworn in. So call you up by name. Jared Beecham, Michael Chernoskis, Cole Craner, Linda Dawson, David Dougherty, Dustin Kirkham, Max Mahaffey, Quinn Rawson, Julia Wabinga, and Molly Yoshikawa. There we go. Squeeze in and make sure everyone's got room so we can all be seen. Thank you all. And doing the swearing in tonight, we have our own Judge Lisa Mansfield. It's my privilege to introduce her and have her come up for the swearing in.
Thank you very much, Chief Zarro. Thank you, council members, and thank you to the family, friends, and loved ones of this fine line of police people. My name is Lisa Mansfield, and I do serve City of Lakewood as municipal court judge. Also, I serve the city of DuPont and Steilacoom. And Lakewood Municipal Court is also the home of our Veterans Treatment Court. Well, I stand here tonight to swear you in. If you could raise your right hand. And if you can repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington. That I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States. The Constitution and laws of the state of Washington. And the laws of the city of Lakewood. And will, to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability, truly, faithfully, diligently, and impartially, perform the duties of, state your position. in and for the city of Lakewood and Pierce County, Washington, as such duties are prescribed by law. You're duly sworn in.
Thank you, Judge. And Mayor Whalen and council members, if you maybe couldn't hear them because of the mask, I can assure you they said everything the judge did.
Yeah.
So they got it right. So if I'll ask you folks to step down, and now we'll call up our lateral officers.
Chief, let me know a good time to say thanks when you're done with your presentation.
Absolutely. So calling up our lateral officers and our promoted detectives, and for everybody, for all the officers, please stick around after. I would like one group photo. Our lateral officers are Officer Grant Borey, Officer Sarah Cartwright, Officer Connor Cockle, Officer Raider Cockle, Officer Cabry Eames, and Officer Lyle Zimmerman, and Detectives Noah Deere and Austin Lee.
Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington, that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington, and the laws of the city of Lakewood, and will, to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability, truly, faithfully, diligently, and impartially perform the duties of, state your position, in and for the city of Lakewood and Pierce County, Washington, as such duties are prescribed by law. You are duly sworn in.
You all can take a seat and be with your family for a little bit. For Mayor Anderson, or excuse me, old habit, Mayor Whalen, and council members, and for the public, you know, it's a lot of people that you just saw coming to the department, and with a lot of diverse backgrounds. We have people that have worked as auditors. We have people that work for the Department of Corrections. As you saw, laterals from other agencies. People that are starting a second career or restarting a career. Just a broad range of backgrounds. One of the things that I'm kind of proudest of with this group is that there's several of them who have family members already working for the department. And for me, that just says a lot that people care enough about the department and think enough of the department and the city to encourage their own family members to come work here. So that's really of everything that we've seen, that's really a kind of a point of pride for me. So with that, we do have a couple of other recognitions that I want to get to. However, I also want to give Mayor Whalen a chance to say a few comments.
Well, thank you, Chief Zarrow, and thank you to all of the new Lakewood police officers. We are very, very thankful for your presence here tonight and appreciate your willingness to be engaged in this great experiment called community service and community policing. First, an apology that we're not there tonight. We made a decision to work remotely because of the whole COVID pandemic. I myself was positive through a county test this last Saturday, so I didn't want to infect my fellow council members or members of the public. And I think that our hearts are with you and our presence is with you. And so I hope by our physical presence not being there tonight that you take no slight from that. We are behind you 100% in your new endeavor and engaged profession here for the city of Lakewood. You're entering into a profession that has had challenges over the last few years. I know that, I know that you know that, and we also want you to know that we are here to support you. This is a very supportive council of community policing done well, and this department has a history of doing community policing well. Now, that said, we can all work collaboratively and do even better because the public expects it and demands it, and they deserve it. So I thank you for coming on board with the Lakewood Police Department. It is an absolutely fine department. You are working with great leadership and great comrades in arms. So we appreciate it. And I just want you to be open to meeting members of the community, as I'm sure you will. It's a great residence, a great group of residents here in the city of Lakewood. We're 63,000 strong. You may not get to know each and every one of them over the course of the next year or two, but certainly over the course of your tenure here at Lakewood, we hope you get to meet a great many of them because they're really fine people. So thanks again for coming tonight. Again, our apologies for not being physically with you, but we are with you in spirit, presence, and support.
Thank you, Mayor Whalen. And again, thank you to all our new hires and your family members for making it out. We do have a couple other pieces of recognition that I'd like to present in front of everybody tonight because I think it's worth it. The first one is, it's a Police Chief Citizens Commendation. This one is for a gentleman named David Boyd. David, if you could please come up. Nope. David is on our Civil Service Commission and has been since we started the department in 2004. He recently announced his retirement. He's tried to announce that before, but we declined service. But every officer here, including me, has been on a hiring list approved by this man. He helped build this department from the ground up. He's been here again for 17 years, working as a volunteer to come and make sure that Lakewood's hiring and promotional practices were met the highest standards. It's been my honor and privilege to work with David over the past 17 years and particularly close since I've been Assistant Chief in Chief for the last 14 years. And I'm honored to have worked with you and to call you a friend. So David, we wish you nothing but the best. Your impact on this department will be felt for years to come. So thank you for your service. David said anything he had to say was said in the last 17 years. So, yeah. One more, if I could have, I think I saw Sergeant John Frazier. And did Officer Casey Bentz make it? I don't think I saw her. And we have, we have Carolyn Sear on online. So this is the Police Chief's Commendation Award, and this is for an incident that occurred last summer. If you'll remember, it was, I think everybody remembers, it was a blistering hot summer, and on one Sunday morning, we found a couple driving a car that was barely roadworthy, and when we got them stopped, realized that the couple had been living out of their car, an elderly couple, malnourished, unable to take care of themselves. And the best they had was this car that it was unsafe to be on the road, but that's all they had. Until Sergeant Frazier and Carolyn Sear, who's on our screen, signed in. She's a member of our behavioral health contact team. And Officer Casey Bentz, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, but stepped in as well, got them to a cooling center. That was the first start, and that wasn't easy. They weren't a couple that thought they needed help. or really wanted help. But we convinced them to get to a cooling center. John got them a motel room for a night until we could work with a housing coordinator through Greater Lakes Mental Health. There we are. And really put a lot of his own time, effort, and money into getting them just cared for. And we're not talking about anything extraordinary. They're just basic human needs. It's getting them, like I said, to a cooling center, something to eat, a shirt that isn't ripped, a roof over their head for a couple nights. And after all that effort, and we also have Tricia here from Greater Lakes, who was played a big role in that as well, also got them connected with family in Colorado. We're able to get them transported to live with family. And as of a couple of weeks ago, are still there, healthy, and doing extraordinarily well. And none of that happens if there aren't people like John and Carolyn and Officer Bentz and the PATH team at Greater Lakes that steps in and just does something. There's a lot of people that say we need to do something. Well, they did it. And because of their efforts, that couple is a million years from where they were when we first met them. So because of their efforts, they're being awarded the Police Chief's Commendation. All right, well, Mayor Whalen, council members, audience members, that is our event for the evening. I really do appreciate you coming out. This is a significant moment in these officers' lives. I remember my swearing in when I got hired in 28 years ago. They're going to remember this. So, and it's because of all your support that they're able to do it and be successful. So thank you all for coming. And Mayor Whalen, thank you for your support and the council's support.
Well, thank you, Chief, and thank you to all of the family members as well as the new officers and the lateral hires. We, again, very much appreciate you and leave with this thought that you are the face of the city to most of the residents, because they rarely get a chance to contact council members per se, but they get a chance very often to come in contact with the fine members of the Lakewood Police Department. So I know you'll serve all of us well. Thanks again. And next, we will have a presentation of the 2021 Larry Saunders Service Award. And if the audience is ready, we will call on Mr. Bob Warfield, Lakewood Community Foundation Fund, for this award. Brianna, are you able to hear me? Do we have the folks online?
Yes, Mr. Warfield will be joining us here momentarily.
Got it. Okay. Just to make sure my volume is loud enough for you all.
There we are. Are
Hey,
we
Bob.
on?
Welcome.
Oh, well, thank you. What an unexpected treat. I don't know if it's still possible, but a shout out with congratulations to Chief Zarro and the 18 new officers on the department. And thank you, Officer Frazier and your partner, for helping out in an extraordinary way. That's really marvelous. Well, good evening. Congratulations, Mayor Whalen.
Thank you.
And good evening to distinguished Mayor Anderson and city council members. Good evening to any citizens, I guess, tuning in to this project. And good evening, Sally. Nice to see you. And Holly, with the fire department and our Lakewood Community Foundation board. I am Bob Warfield, honored to represent the Lakewood Community Foundation Fund in partnership with the City of Lakewood, and here tonight together with Sally Saunders and Mayor Whalen to present the 5th annual Larry Saunders Service Award. The Larry Award was conceived to recognize a Lakewood person or organization each year for their distinguished service to community. It is named for and given in honored remembrance of James Lawrence Saunders, who in life exemplified the highest ideals of American citizenship and service to community. Larry Saunders was an amazing fellow, soldier, leader of the mighty, and advocate for the dispossessed. Larry was one of those guys with the right stuff showing up at an historical juncture when most needed for a critical task. We will always miss Chief Saunders, his relaxed humor, his calm inspiration, his grace, and his wit. Tonight's award is unusual in that we have 2 winners. The first award goes to Lieutenant General William Hardin Harrison, first mayor of our fair city. When I think of General Harrison, Mayor Bill, virtue comes to mind. You may think that means sobriety, temperance, and humility. But actually what I'm thinking about is the Scout Law, which is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Beside that, General Harrison looks good on camera. He's gracious and smart, and he embodies all those superlatives and our good fortune of the right leader in the right place at the right time. Here's a photo, I don't know if it will show up, but I'll give it a shot, of the first city council with former soldier, first mayor, General Bill Harrison. I guess you can see that.
Yeah.
1996. And here, a little awkward with Zoom, but nevertheless, we'll give it a shot here. Is, with Sally's help, we'll sort of pretend hand this over to General Harrison. And I'll see to it that it gets delivered. And it's such an honor to honor this great man. And I can't say enough about him. We all are privileged to know him and to love him dearly and appreciate and honor and admire him for all that he's done and all that he represents for the city of Lakewood. And I don't know if General Harrison or Karen George would want to make some remarks, or Sally or the mayor, but I guess this is the time to do that.
Well, Bob, before I turn it over, John Caulfield, the city manager, is going to make some remarks at the behest of and on behalf of General Harrison. I just want to thank you, and certainly we all applaud the fine work you do and your committee does, and the honor bestowed on General Harrison is certainly well deserved from all of us here in the community. So thank you for your work, and thank you, General Harrison. I'm sure you're listening and watching us with a twinkle in your eye, and we appreciate everything you've done for every one of us, the mentorship, the leadership, and certainly the fellowship. It's much appreciated. So thank you. Mr. Caulfield, I believe you have some remarks.
Thank you, Mayor. And first of all, good evening, General and Mayor Emeritus Harrison. I'm honored here this evening to be able to speak your words. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for this great honor, and I'm humbled to do so. So in your words, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, thank you for hosting the ceremony this evening. By the way, congratulations, Mr. Mayor and Madam Deputy Mayor. I accept this honor tonight with deep humility and great respect. Of the several awards I've received over my career, I can think of none which fill me with greater pleasure. Larry Saunders worked for me multiple times in the Army during the late 80s, but the last time was when, with the aid of Claudia Thomas and Doug Richardson, I hired him as Lakewood's first police chief. Let me say at this point, throughout all of Larry's assignments with me, he was accompanied by his charming wife, Sally Saunders, and together they made a star team. He stood out to me after our first encounter, which was just a brief conversation. His demeanor made him very distinct. I knew he had the quality of character necessary to handle this responsibility the right way with dignity and pride in his community. Larry was always looking to try to help. It is this friendship, camaraderie, and mutual respect that makes it such a special privilege to be this year's recipient of the Larry Saunders Service Award. Let me end my remarks by saying a special thanks to Sidney Kuntz, who nominated me, to Bob Warfield, who guided the process, and the Lakewood Community Foundation Board, who made the final determination. Thank you.
Thank you, General Harrison, through Mr. Caulfield's voice. Your words are heartfelt and well-spoken, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, General. Pause there. Sally, how are you?
I'm fine. Well, I'm okay. I'm better than I was. I was sick. I didn't have COVID, but I was sick. So that's
you're
why I'm
always
home,
sick.
because I don't want to hack on anybody. I'm so thrilled for General Harrison. He's been such a dear man for so many years to both Larry and I. And I just can't think of Larry being happier that he would get this award.
I agree. He would be smiling, and is,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, Bob, did you have the other
Yes.
award you'd like to
We'll,
make? Thank you.
we'll continue. It's a good point to thank the Larry Saunders Award Recognition Committee, Todd Wolf from Roby's Print Design Center with the Lakewood Chamber of Commerce representing community, Councilmember Patty Bell representing City of Lakewood, and Ann Inquist representing the Lakewood Community Foundation Fund. Thanks to all of you for helping to make the 2021 award a double hitter. And by selecting Partners for Parks for the second award tonight. What a sterling bunch. Here's a photo. I don't know, again, if this is possible to see. I guess not. But at any rate, in this photo is Ted Weir and Charlie Maxwell, whom we remember from days of yore, along with Mary Dodsworth and the great crew of Partners for Parks that have done so much to enhance Lakewood and give us a city with real presence in terms of our parks and our recreation opportunities. It's just been marvelous what's been accomplished over the past 25 years. So a well-deserved award. And Sally, I don't know, I guess you can help me again, lift this up. Here is the award for Partners for Parks. I hope everything is spelled properly, which will be delivered soon. And I want to mention that each of these awards includes a check. This is not a negotiable one, but it's a representation. Here's one for each. For General Harrison going to Communities for Schools, and for Partners for Parks, going to guess who? Partners for Parks. So the grant goes with the award. And I want to thank Jim Kopriva for furnishing the photos. And I want to thank Asteroid 7482, Perrin 1994, Papa Charlie 1, for missing our humble planet. It just went by a few hours ago. I kid you not. And I guess it heard that we were dealing with COVID and decided to keep going. But in spite of positive tests here and there, we all have a positive attitude, and that should always be a hallmark for the city of Lakewood. So thank you all, and let's continue to keep the arc bending toward justice. Thank you for supporting our city and the Lakewood Community Foundation Fund, and I wish you a marvelous year ahead. Good night.
Well, thank you, Bob, very much. And thanks to all the members of Partners for Parks for the incredible amount of work they've done over the years. This city is nothing but what its volunteers have created. And the work of so many volunteers, including those within Partners for Parks, have done yeoman's work all across this great city for the benefit of so many residents. So thank you again for an award well done, and certainly well received and well deserved.
Thank you. Good night, General Harrison.
Thank you.
Good night, all. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sally. Good to see you. Next, we will turn to our youth. Bob, if you're done with your award ceremony, unless we have other comments to be made. Sally, were you going to say something else on behalf of Partners for Parks, or are we all set?
Mayor, I believe there's just a delay of individuals leaving the meeting.
Got it. Very good. Well, sometimes parting is such sweet sorrow, especially when it comes to Zoom. So next we will turn to our youth council report, and I believe is Hank there, or one of the youth council members who wishes to present?
Mayor, we have Hank Jones this evening.
Great. Mr. Jones, you're on.
Hello.
Hi, Hank.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to the City Council. My name is Hank, and I'm so happy to be here for the first time in the new year. I, first of all, want to wish my congratulations to Mayor Whalen on his new appointment and Deputy Mayor Moss on her new appointment.
Thank you.
Thank you also to Councilman Boki for his time serving as Youth Council Liaison, and thank you to Councilman Brandstetter for taking over that role. To all of you, your work is much appreciated. I also want to say that General Harrison is the namesake of my own high school and a man that I respect so greatly. So thank you, sir, for your monumental legacy in this city. So at today's Youth Council meeting, we spoke with Councilman Brandstetter about Tree Preservation Code and the Tree Advisory Ad Hoc Committee, where several of our members expressed interest in applying. We similarly spoke with David Buher about a climate change perception study being done, and many of us volunteered to participate. At the center of our meeting, as usual, was the upcoming Youth Summit, planning logistics and the agenda for our event. We looked at venues and we're considering options such as Lakewood McGavick Center and the Lakewood Boys and Girls Club. Discussions mostly revolved around dates and times, scheduling, and transportation. We still want mental health and career opportunities to be our main themes, and everyone had a lot of input. In fact, the meeting ran over 10 minutes longer than it was supposed to, just because everyone wanted to chime in, which is really good to see. Lastly, I want to say that I had the privilege to present to my peers on Youth Council tonight about a service opportunity that's very close to me. I'm friends with Diane Formoso, who leads Caring for Kids, which is a local charity that operates in Lakewood to provide resources to underprivileged students. Diana asked that I recruit young volunteers in the community as volunteers for our annual Happy Hearts holiday auction being held in February of this year. We had a bunch of people from our group sign up, which I was so excited for. It's good to see members supporting each other and sharing opportunities. We have such a strong group this year, and I can't wait to see what else 2022 will bring for us. And that is all from my report today. Can I answer any questions?
Well, thank you, Hank. Are there any questions for Mr. Jones by members of the council? I don't see any hands raised, so you must have satisfied every question and every possible angle there, Hank. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I want to say well done on the Martin Luther King video. I thought the stories of the youth members were fantastic, as were the stories of the elders. So thank you for being a part of that.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I was included and that my fellow students were able to be included as well. Thank you.
Great. Well done. So, well, very good. If that is it from our youth council, we will now move on to the public comment section of tonight's agenda. Thank you, Hank. Public comments are accepted by mail, email, or live virtual comments. Of course, you can send comments in advance, as many folks do, by mail or email to Brianna Schumacher, the city clerk, at the address posted on the website, or to her email address, bschumacher@cityoflakewood.us. Comments received up to an hour before the meeting have been provided to all of us electronically. The clerk will now read the names of those who have provided public written comments in advance.
Mayor Whalen, we did not receive any comments in advance of this evening's meeting.
Very good. So we will now announce members of the audience who have signed in electronically to make comment on items relating to any matter related to city business under this public comment period. Comments, as folks recall, are limited to 3 minutes per person. Virtual comments, again, if you'd like to make live virtual comments, please join our Zoom meeting tonight with the information on the screen. Raise the hand feature in order to be called upon. Those participating by calling in by telephone, please also use the raise hand feature by pressing *9 on your phone. When you're unmuted, please provide your name and city of residence. You will be allowed your 3 minutes to speak. Outside of public comments, all attendees on Zoom will continue to have the ability to virtually raise hands for the duration of the meeting. However, you will not be called upon or acknowledged and will remain muted except for when you are actually called upon, so we can keep some sense of order and fairness for folks making comment. So Ms. Schumacher, if you'd assist us in calling on folks who have raised their virtual hand.
The first individual we have is Christina Minetti.
Ms. Minetti, you're up.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, great. So my name is Christina Minetti and I'm a resident of Lakewood. I'm not a religious person, but tonight I do feel compelled to comment on the meaning of the verb to bless. In an article in the Tacoma News Tribune on January 6th, the new mayor was quoted as saying, "We have been blessed with the industrial park warehouses, but we also want to enhance the opportunities for professional business and other services." Blessed. We have been blessed with industrial park warehouses. Blessed. Who was doing the blessing here? Have we been blessed by those who are creating and facilitating warehouse development? By the grace of Amazon, Panther, and the federal government and its economic opportunity zones? Was Woodbrook blessed when the Gary Oak Grove and historic schoolhouse were destroyed for the Amazon warehouse semi-truck parking lot right in front of the beekeeper's patent homestead? Will Springbrook be blessed if 114 Gary Oaks are destroyed for a speculative warehouse as proposed by Panettone? And if the surrounding neighborhood is destroyed along with it on a floodplain with a salmon-bearing creek nearby? Usually blessings come from God, not from corporations that are driven by profit. The warehouses have been built for short-term gain without any regard for the long-term devastation of Lakewood's God-given natural resources. To say that the warehouses are a blessing is tantamount to the deification of human greed and destruction. I would go further and say that it is in fact demonic, being an inversion of the sacred and the profane. The eternal is sacrificed on the altar of Moloch, that ancient god who demanded child sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice. That Moloch is still alive and well in Lakewood. As Allen Ginsberg put it, Moloch, whose eyes are 1,000 blind windows. Moloch, whose skyscrapers stand in the long streets like endless Jehovah's. Moloch, whose factories dream and croak in the fog. Moloch, whose smokestacks and antennae crown the cities. Moloch, whose love is endless oil and stone. Moloch, whose soul is electricity and banks. Moloch, whose temple was built in Lakewood on the corpses of oaks and trashed lives of innocent people. Warehouses are obviously not a blessing, and to claim that they are is a clear perversion of the truth. Council members, I am asking you tonight to do everything in your power to counteract the Moloch that is destroying Lakewood. Go to Woodbrook, look at the eradication of God's work. It's a curse, and whoever is responsible, whoever replaced verdant oak groves with the tabernacles of Moloch, should look to God for forgiveness, because you can rest assured that it won't be coming from future generations. Thank you for your time.
Next.
Dennis Hogan.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Dennis Hogan from Sioux Falls. We'll be thankful for the jobs that the warehouses bring, because that's about as best you can do for jobs, and jobs are important to people. You know, probably there was a turning point back, I think it was about 2018, when certain state officials voted for a sanctuary state. And that really helped set up the market for the drug cartels in Mexico. It opened the freeways for transportation because local law enforcement officers can't check to see if there's any other thing than what they're stopping them for. 5 years from now, you'll probably think some of these people need to be arrested. You know, you need to listen to Governor Kristi Noem's State of the State speech. Then immediately after listening to her speech, listen to Governor Inslee. Then you might get an idea about what leadership is all about. You know, Washington State really makes itself a bad neighbor to other states. Shipping, for example, some of this stuff has to go through Washington to get to other states. And tracking devices show us ships can't get out because they can't get in because there's all kinds of supporting jobs. And with this governor's on and off, mandates, whatever going on all the time, it disrupts the supply lines because it's not just, the supply line is not just the port. It's warehouses and everything down the line, all kinds of jobs. And listen to those two governors give their speeches. And, you know, I got a good idea of where in the world are all these millions of people going to be, where are they going to live? That Biden and Inslee are bringing into the country. Well, it probably has to do with that $800 million that he's bragging about, which is going to require rezoning, rebuilding, everything else to find places for them to live. Then you'll have the crime come into your community. They'll call it, say it's for homeless, but they won't know who's homeless and who's an illegal immigrant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Next.
James Dunlop.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is James Dunlop and I'm a Lakewood resident. I want to comment on succession planning. I think we all agree that political process requires scrutiny, especially in situations where the mayor and deputy mayor are not democratically elected. These council chosen positions are not just ceremonial and are not special prizes for long service. They carry real power, for example, through the chairing of meetings and through influence and patronage. While usually the mayor has most of the influence, the deputy mayor must be ready to temporarily take over. Also, the deputy mayorship is a pathway to leadership. On January the 7th, 2008, Donald Anderson, as a newly elected council member, was appointed unanimously as deputy mayor. 5 years later, he became full mayor. Or, as the Tacoma News Tribune put it in July, when endorsing one of our council members, she could be a bridge between the accomplished old guard and a well-rounded new generation of leaders. The News Tribune was being over-optimistic on a number of levels. In reality, there is an impending leadership vacuum. In terms of a new generation of leaders, it seems that the few realistic candidates for deputy mayor declined to put their names forward. One might then ask why the council has evolved in such a way that the pool of leadership is drying up. The median elected tenure of council members has been rising since 2008, and it is currently around 12 years. It feels like the Politburo in the dying days of the Soviet Union, without any Gorbachev-like bridge to future leadership. I know the new mayor is relatively young, but is being mayor of Lakewood the pinnacle of his political ambitions? And all this makes me wonder why the city's leadership appears to be deliberately creating a leadership vacuum. Are they facilitating a managed succession? Perhaps, and relatively speaking, the next deputy mayor has already been selected and will be standing for council position 4 in 2023. As the new mayor might have heard during his visit to the Paris Air Show, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. The more it changes, the more it's the same thing. Thanks for listening.
Next,
Bunchy, MOD.
thank you.
Hello, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right, well, my name is Bunchy Carter. I really need to fix that so y'all know it's me. I'm the Minister of Defense of the Black Panther Party of Washington and a resident of Lakewood. Man, what can I say? There's a lot going on right now. A lot's changing in the city. But unfortunately, as much as things change, they still stay the same, much like our brother that was just on said. And I want to make a specific note to the obviously deranged individual from Sioux Falls. I'm not sure what you were talking about, but the reality of the matter is that homelessness doesn't necessarily breed more crime if you know how to treat homeless people. See, the problem is we assume that people without shelter are a danger to our community when they're actually just an extension of our community that we find inside of our homes. So we should probably be a little more gracious to those individuals, find it within ourselves to give them the same grace that we would want them to give us. You see, when we're out speaking to the houseless community or feeding them or giving them winter clothing because it's too cold outside, we don't see any aspects of this crime element that y'all keep talking about. But I can tell you this for certain. The only crime element that I'm super afraid of. Now, I want to put it in perspective for you. A lot of people assume that because I'm Black and because I'm from a low income neighborhood, my entire life almost, that I'm comfortable with people who commit crime, that I'm comfortable with killers, I'm comfortable with drug dealers, I'm comfortable with people committing robberies, when in all actuality, we fear that same element that y'all swear we're a part of. And see, thinking like that and assuming that the crime element comes from a certain place leads to dumb stuff like, I don't know, Saeed Joaquin getting killed in his car. That's what happens when you make the wrong assumption about people. A piece of information came to me very recently concerning that situation that kind of had me flummoxed. I was like, wait, that can't be true. You mean to tell me that this young man died in a matter of 3 minutes because he was trying to show the secondary officer exactly where the gun was that the other officer was talking about? He said, hey, it's right there. So if being helpful gets you killed, what's the motivation to be helpful? What's the motivation to be a part of the conversation with the police when we feel like the police are the ones endangering the members of the community? The only thing I got to say in this last 35 seconds that I got left, Mike Wiley, I hope you enjoyed your run, bro. I hope you enjoyed it because we about to bring it to an end. You're going to jail with the rest of the killers, man. Justice for Saeed Joaquin. All power to the people.
Thank you. Next member of the public.
Addo.
I'm sorry, Ms. Schumacher, Addo.
It just comes in as Addo.
Okay.
My name is Addo Equitas. I'm the chairman of the Panther Party. I like it when I get to speak a little bit later because then my people get to jump on and they get to amp me up a little bit. I want to call out Christina and James because they spoke very passionately and beautifully. Thank you, guys. The brother that was on earlier, the little brother, he was talking about how all the children wanted to join the environmental group that y'all have. That's good. I hope y'all listen to them. Because remember, they're the ones that are going to have to deal with this in the future. So maybe offer a little bit more weight to their voice instead of the construction guys that are, you know, standing to make millions of dollars on the tail end. Waylon, you threw out a couple weeks ago that we go into this assuming failure. No, we're assuming greed. We're assuming capitalism because that's the life that we live. Our assumption is not failure. Our assumption is bias. Now, let's move on. I want to call out because Mr. Hogan that Sioux Falls cat. He was saying that you guys should listen to a mayor or a governor or whatever. I got a couple more people that y'all should listen to. Try listening to Shay. Try listening to Huey P. Newton. Try listening to Fred Hampton. Try listening to the people that were about the people, not people that have already been corrupted by the system. Because then maybe you guys can open your eyes a little bit and see, hey, maybe things ain't the way that they're supposed to be, but they could be if we help. My brother Bunchy just spoke about the houseless community and how that brother threw out that they're all just criminals. And like he said, we go out there and that's not what we see. We see people that are just thankful to be treated as human. So take that into your guys' next meeting. Some human decency. Now, we just got word that y'all just approved 10 new police officers to be brought on. Where's that money coming from? Why are we not giving that money to the houseless community? Why are we not giving that money to build the parks up? When people say defund the police, they don't want the money taken away from the police. They just want the, rifles and tanks off the streets. Put that money to good use. Give that money to the people. Because we don't need no more cops on this street, because we don't need no more dead bodies in this street. All power to the people.
Next.
Mayor, no one else has raised their virtual hand to speak this evening.
Very good. Let's give it just a couple of seconds to see if there's anyone else who wishes to address the council during this public comment period. Any others, Ms. Schumacher?
No virtual hands are raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. We will declare the public comment period over. Next, the consent agenda, Madam Clerk.
A, approval of the minutes of the City Council meeting of January 3rd, 2022. B, motion number 2022-03, approving the 2022 Citizens Advisory Boards, Committees, and Commission work plans. C, motion number 2022-04, authorizing the execution of an employment agreement between the City of Lakewood and John Caulfield. D, motion number 2022-05, reappointing Glenn Spieth to serve on the Landmarks and Heritage Advisory Board through December 31st, 2024. E, motion number 2022-06, reappointing Philip Combs and Lynn Larson to serve on the Planning Commission through December 15th, 2026. F, items filed in the office of the City Clerk. 1, Community Services Advisory Board meeting minutes of April 21st, 2021. 2, Community Services Advisory Board meeting minutes of September 15th, 2021. 3, Lakewood Arts Commission meeting minutes of October 4th, 2021. 4, Lakewood Arts Commission meeting minutes of October 7th, 2021. 5, Lakewood Arts Commission meeting minutes of October 18th, 2021. 6, Lakewood Arts Commission meeting minutes of October 21st, 2021. 7, Lakewood Arts Commission meeting minutes of October 29th, 2021. 8, Lakewood Arts Commission meeting minutes of November 1st, 2021. 9, Lakewood Arts Commission meeting minutes of November 17th, 2021. 10, Lakewood Arts Commission meeting minutes of December 6th, 2021. 11, Planning Commission meeting minutes of January 5th, 2022.
Very good. Is there any item of the consent agenda which any member of the council wishes to remove at this time? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll move, Mr. Mayor.
Second. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Moss, seconded by Councilmember Anderson, that we adopt the consent agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The consent agenda has been adopted as presented. We now move to the regular agenda. First is resolution number 2021-01. Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2022-01, authorizing the inclusionary housing incentives design covenant for LU 20-0206 Gravely Lake Gardens.
Thank you. And for this, I'll call on our planning manager, Courtney Brunel, to provide an overview.
Mayor, I don't see that we have Ms. Brunel on the meeting at this time, but I will advance Mr. Buer.
I would be happy to have Mr. Buer speak to this before presentation and review by the council. Mr. Buer, are you available?
I am. Just give me a moment, please.
We can do that.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, this item was before you previously at your meeting of January the 10th. And there were some questions regarding trees as well as parking. We've provided some additional information in those areas. I will refer to you to the report beginning on page 60. We have provided an additional parking diagram to show where those parking spaces would be on the adjoining lot. We have also investigated their availability during early morning hours. There are 6 spaces available. And we did provide and review with you some additional information regarding trees. There's also some information on off-site replacement found on page 61. I'm going to keep my comments brief this evening and return it back to the city council should you have any specific questions. While Ms. Courtney Brunel may not be available, Mr. Ramon Rodriguez is. So if I fail to talk about something I should have, I would ask that you bring him online. I see that Courtney and Ramon are now available.
Great.
So with that, I turn it back to the council.
Thank you for the interim tap dance, Mr. Buer. We turn it over to Ms. Brunel. I think, Ms. Brunel, you were going to speak to some of the changes in the proposed documentation and ordinance vis-a-vis what we reviewed at the study session.
Good evening, Mayor and Deputy Mayor. I'm actually going to defer over to Mr. Rodriguez, who has prepared a presentation this evening. And then regarding the deed restriction specifically, I do believe that Dave may have some additional comments if you'd like an overview on that.
Very good. Mr. Rodriguez, do you have some comments as to the changes in this packet item from the study session?
I don't have, I think Dave mostly went over everything, but I'll do my presentation. So good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council. I'm Ramon Rodriguez, Associate Planner at the City, the project lead for the Gravely Lake Gardens project. Since the last City Council study session held on January 10th, 2022, we have provided a free preservation mitigation information, a parking exhibit explaining the project's parking situation, and a rationale for parking reductions associated with affordable housing in accordance with the Growth Management Act. These documents and explanations can be found on the beginning of page 60 of the packet prepared for this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, very good. Well, thank you. I will open it up to council for questions on resolution 2022-01 as presented. We did review this at the study session. There were some slight modifications to the language of the proposed resolution. Any members of council have any additional questions? Mr. Brandstetter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Rodriguez, the most significant change between what you presented to us at the study session and what is in the agenda bill today was referenced at the study session that the developer preferred a format for the covenant that was used by Tacoma rather than the one that had been promulgated and that we reviewed by Lakewood. And I guess that you know, my looking at the two documents, there are some significant changes in detail, okay, about the agreement and how the affordable units would be identified, managed, and would go on. I guess, was there any effort to take a Tacoma document and a Lakewood document and add into the Tacoma document, since their document wasn't designed for exactly the same program, some of the things that were advantageous in our original document?
Mr. Buer?
We were approached by Mr. Remy the night of the meeting to see if we could choose or use the Tacoma document with modifications. Between then and the time to turn around this document and bring it back for January the 18th, we only had about 1 day. So basically, the effort was made to consolidate and bring forward a deed restriction that was similar to Tacoma without all of the level of detail that was provided in the other document. The design behind that was basically what Mr. Remy was doing was not exactly the same as what was being proposed in Tacoma, which in our minds provided some level of flexibility. The first of which is the Tacoma document is primarily used for their multifamily tax exemption program. In this case, Mr. Remy is not using our multifamily tax exemption program, was not asking for any financial assistance from the city of Lakewood. What he was looking for were reductions in parking and the ability to provide some additional units on the site. So on that basis, in an effort to expedite this, it was decided to move forward with the Tacoma document. Could we have taken the Tacoma document and made modifications to it? Yes, if that's what the council wants to do. But that's really the extent of my remarks this evening, Mr. Whalen and members of the council.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, Mr. Yeah, you know, it does seem to me that the greatest difference between the two documents, they are similar in terms of reports, perhaps a bit reporting process is a bit simpler in the Tacoma document than the one that's before us today. But the majority of the things that were expunged by making that change had to do with things that provided value to potential and eventual low-income renters. For instance, the Tacoma document doesn't have the specificity of the types of units and number of bedrooms that would be made available. It merely resets it back to any 4 units that the developer wants to make available. And whereas our original document specified how some would bear to include ensuring that at least 1 2-bedroom unit was going to be included in the mix, thereby making sure that at least 1 unit appropriate for a family was going to be available. That our document indicated that rent would be based on income, and both do, but our document indicated that the 30% standard that is used to determine rent would include, the 30% would include both a utility allowance and the rent, whereas the document before us tonight only speaks to rent. that I think our document specifically spoke to the fact that a unit that became no longer occupied by an eligible person would quickly, by the next available unit available to rent, there would be a unit returned to the affordable rental mix. Whereas in the Tacoma document, it looks like that could not really have to be done until the next reporting document cycle at the end of a year, where it would just have to be reconciled to be able to go and do that. I guess there's really three parties that go into this thing. There's the city, there is the developer, but then there are also the potential tenants, and the potential tenants aren't the signature on the document, so they have to rely upon us to be looking to make sure that the document includes those things that would be of value to them, or the clarity about things to them. And I understand that you only had one day, and so you didn't really be able to go in and make any changes and to do that. Would you in 2 weeks be able to make such a review to try to bring the two documents closer together and work with the developer to come up with some language that includes some of the things that made the first document strong from a tenant perspective? Or do you feel that that is perhaps not going to be doable through a negotiation with the developer?
Mr. Brandstetter, to answer your question, the level of detail that you're speaking about and trying to bring the two documents together, my preference would just be to use the original document, because the amount of time, I'm not sure it would look very much different than the document that we submitted to the council on January the 10th. I can make the effort, but it may not look much different than the January 10th document.
And Dave, in layman's terms, I'll call on Mr. Anderson in a second. Are you done, Mr. Brandstetter?
You only want to clarify that using the January 10th version of the covenant remains an option from a staff perspective?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
And what are the material differences, Mr. Buer, just briefly, while the other members of the council catch up with the impact of the comments?
Everything that Mr. Brandstetter reported out is exactly accurate. I mean, you are required to specify the specific number of units.
But not the unit, right?
Pardon me?
But not the unit by number, for instance, units 402, 403, 404, 405. It's just 4 units within the project.
4 units in the complex for the January 18th document. It's a little bit more specific for the January 10th document. You have to make sure that as soon as you have a low-income person leave, that you fill it with another low-income person, for example. That can be a little tricky, given the availability of the units. And it all goes back to the vacancy rates as well. So the level of detail that Mr. Brandstetter talked about is exactly the things that you would want to incorporate into the easement, if that's, excuse me, the agreement, if you wanted to do it that way. The reason that agreement was used in the first place, the January 10th one, is by looking at what the state may be requiring through the Department of Commerce for multifamily tax exemptions in the future. They are requiring some audit processes. We're not exactly sure what that would look like, but a lot of conversation is going to fall back on these covenants in the future. So that's why we went with it originally. Mr. Remy objected to it at the last minute, said, can we do something a little slightly different? I hope I answered your question.
I think so. Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, I think the level of detail we're discussing here now is a great example of government over governing and delaying and adding expense in the housing market. Mr. Remy, the developer, has come forward with an unsubsidized proposal. He's not asking for any low-income loan, government payment, tax exemption, all of which generally go into providing affordable units. He's asking for a density bonus. There are significant restrictions in the original agreement. We don't have to match some hypothetical future housing authority restrictions or low-income loan provisions. One size doesn't have to fit all. I think any delay is money. And he appears to be trying to do the right thing by coming forward and saying, I will include some low-income units in my development. And I think that should be rewarded and moved forward as quickly as possible, at least as expense as possible.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments by members of the council? Mr. Buer, I have a question. You know, again, I'm one that would be an advocate for simplicity as long as it's got sufficient teeth to it. And as I look at the document before us on page, it looks like 66 and 67 of the packet, you know, the applicant agrees, and for a period of 20 years, to submit certain documentation to the city to basically comply with the terms of this covenant, which includes ensuring that there are 4 of the 36 units that are going to be for very low income housing purposes, right?
Yes, in fact, it's found on page 67, Part B. Upon completion of the improvements and issuance of a certificate of occupancy, that means when all the construction is done, used to file with the city's department a description of the work, a statement of qualification for the exemption, and then the units that are created, as well as the number and unit types reserved for affordable housing. And then it's really up to staff to make sure that he's complied with the number of units that are set aside and the appropriate mix. So it's more administrative than in the other agreement.
Very good. I certainly understand where you're coming from, Mr. Brandstetter, but I'm just one voice here, but I'm satisfied that this gets us where it needs to be. And it does provide some additional units of affordable housing in the city using one of the tools in the tool chest that has yet to be ever used before, to my knowledge, right? I mean, this is the first time we've ever had somebody apply for a density bonus.
That's correct.
And I would prefer that we not make it overly cumbersome, because it may be the last time anyone applies for a density bonus in the city of Lakewood. So any other questions or comments by members of the council? Mr. Brandstetter.
I would just like to clarify one other point with staff, and that is the revised covenant, the one that's in the packet today, pertains a provision that if that would allow over the course of the 20 years, if at some point in time there was the owner of the development at whatever time ceased to be providing the 4 units, that they could exit that by instead paying an in lieu of fee. Now, how would that work if someone became non-compliant, but that the future housing markets made it actually financially beneficial to make that change, pay the in lieu of fee, and move all the units to market rate?
Mr. Brandstetter and members of the council, this is in reference to page 68 Part F, the applicant's obligations, including but not limited to the affordability requirements, shall be enforceable for a period of 20 years. In the event any breach of this agreement, including conversion by the applicant, the city may specially enforce this agreement, or in its sole and absolute discretion, may, as an alternative to specific enforcement, require the applicant to pay a then applicable in lieu of fee, if established, plus interest from the date of certificate of occupancy. There's actually two things going on here. In the event of a breach, we can especially enforce this agreement. So that means to me that the city can sue the developer for breaching this agreement and ask for damages. The other option is in the event that he wishes no longer to have these units set aside, the city would may establish an in lieu of fee, in which case then the developer would have to pay that. In order to establish an in lieu fee, we would have to go through a process to prepare a document outlining what that fee process would be. And then the city council ultimately would have to approve that and put it into its master fee schedule. If you take a look at the city of Seattle, if you use the in lieu fee process, it's over $32,000 per unit as of December 2021 on average. Now that's Seattle, so the market's different in Tacoma and Lakewood, but that gives you a rough approximation of what this number would look like. From my perspective, if I'm a developer or the property owner, if I read this, this is not something that I want to do. There's an enforceable aspect to this that opens up a whole can of worms. And so the language is in there to outline a process, but to also indicate to the developer that the city is serious in the event that they choose to go in a different direction. We would take enforcement. So that's my answer.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Wachter, if you're there, I have a point for you. If you're there somewhere on the screen. I am. Yeah, the language, now that Mr. Buer reads it on page 68 of the packet, paragraph F, I think the language should be specifically enforce the agreement as opposed to specially. That should be a typographical error because, as you know, that's a term of art.
It is a term of art.
Where it says, in the event of a breach in the middle of that paragraph of this agreement, including conversion by the applicant,
Yes.
the city may specifically, it should be.
Yes, correct. I'm looking at that word. I did have page 68 up, and I want to appreciate Mr. Buer as a speaker for referencing the pages as he goes. That's very helpful to those of us playing at home. So yes, I believe that that can be taken as a Scrivener's error because it is a term of art that's commonly used in contracts, and it would be unusual to use the term specially enforced.
Right, it should be specifically enforced.
And I am fairly certain, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Remy, but I don't think that's going to be the core of an issue in what Mr. Buer's been doing with him.
No, because the prior sentence already references the obligation shall be specifically enforceable by the city for the full 20-year period.
Precisely.
Of the agreement, so it's
Precisely.
there. Yeah.
We can get that fixed, and we'll do so.
Any other questions or comments on the proposed covenant or resolution 2022-01 by members of the council? If not, with that Scrivener's error in mind, acknowledged by our parliamentarian, the city attorney, do I have a motion to approve resolution 2022-01?
So moved.
I have a second.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Anderson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Moss, that we approve resolution 2022-01. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Resolution 2021-01 has passed, and I believe it is 5 yea, 1 nay, with Mr. Boki being absent. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Wachter, but I believe that's the adoption of the resolution.
I believe that's correct.
Very good. There being no further items on the regular agenda, we turn to unfinished business. Mr. City Manager, do we have any to attend to?
There is none, Mayor.
How about new business?
Not this evening, Mayor.
Great. So we'll turn to reports by the city manager. Mr. Caulfield, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Just a few updates this evening. The first is we received the council rather has received a proclamation request from the Lakewood Sister Cities, of which you're a partner with, to ask this body to issue a proclamation on as part of your February 7th regular meeting to celebrate 20 years of a sister city relationship with Okinawa City, Japan. And unless there's any objection, Mayor, we can certainly move forward with that. Also wanted to let the City Council know that we continue to have some discussions with Waste Connections. This actually pertains specifically to yard waste that has not been picked up for those customers who would have been served the week of December 27th. Both the city and Waste Connections have confirmed that it's been more than 2 weeks since yard waste has been picked up, which means that those customers for that week are due a credit. Right now, Waste Connections is only applying to a credit for those individuals who call in and request one. We have been clear to point out to them that that's not what the franchise agreement says. So we're hoping by the end of this week we can have this resolved, and they will then move forward with issuing a yard waste credit for, again, all of those customers who would have had yard waste picked up the week of December 27th, because then 2 weeks later it was also missed. And the next time that there will be an opportunity is the week of January 24th. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Also, I think after last week's meeting, I did send you a link to the 2022 Pierce County homeless point in time time count rather, which is going to occur next week. So again, if you have an interest in participating in that, there's a link at the Pierce County website to do so. If you need any assistance there, please let us know and we can try and help out there. Late last week, we learned from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department. They have a annual awards program called Healthy Communities, and they are recognizing the city of Lakewood with a 2021 Healthy Communities Award for the new energy and climate change chapter that the council adopted last year, incorporated into your comprehensive plan. So I just wanted to congratulate you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members for work well done there. Also wanted to report, Police Chief Mike Zarro has communicated that as of last Wednesday, so almost a week now, the behavioral health contact team has placed 11 people over at Aspen Court, people who have been out in the street, essentially homeless and such. There's still room for another 6 or 7 folks. And so again, our behavioral health contact team, as well as some of our other city partners, are working to try and accommodate those in need who need it and who are willing to go over there and take advantage of the new facility and the programs that they offer. On Friday, we kicked off our community satisfaction survey. And so notices were mailed out this weekend and into the early part of this weekend to 27 households across the city. The goal there is to obtain a statistically accurate survey, which is expected to be completed by the end of March and presented to this body sometime in April. Also wanted to point out that in mid-February, we will make the survey in general available for everybody on the city's website and many of our social media platforms. And though those results, since they would not be statistically accurate, will be reported separately. And again, we expect to have those results end of March and for presentation to this body in April. We continue our discussion with the library district about the condition of the library in the downtown, as well as potentially a new library over in Tillicum and perhaps elsewhere in the community. As this body knows, this is a key goal and objective for the city council. And the question is, well, why is the city involved in the library business? Well, actually, we're not. The reason that we're involved is because there's a desire for this body to perhaps, and this goes back a number of years now, this is not something that's new, to incorporate perhaps a senior activity center or a community center as part of a new library, if one can be built somewhere here in Lakewood. Of course, that would require some kind of a capital campaign that the library district would need to undertake at some time in the future. The next steps right now is we're looking to bring on Burke and Associates. They're very familiar with Lakewood. They're very familiar with the library district to help facilitate a discussion that we would like to have the community lead and do that in the forum of some kind of a community group that would lead that. And in our discussions with the library district, they have expressed an interest that perhaps those citizens, those individuals could be appointed jointly by both the Board of Trustees as well as this body. We do expect to have some more information, including kind of a scope of how this would work, probably sometime in the March timeframe. But certainly if we have something ready and sooner, we'll be sure to communicate that to you. But again, the goal there is to try and resolve this ongoing issue we keep seeing to be going round and round. And so the library director and I both agree that let's take a different approach. And rather than us telling the community, let's have the community tell us what's needed and how to go about it. So again, more to follow there. Just as a precursor, Mr. Buer is currently working on the city's annual housing report. And I think as you're all aware, and we reported this last year, this is very, very unique. Not too many cities, actually, I'm not familiar with any city that does this. And it's not something that's required, but we have found it to be a very, very valuable document to give kind of a state of the city, if you will, on the city's housing stock. And just wanted to let you know that actually over the last 5 years, we have a lot of successes. There's been a good number of multi-unit housing built, as well as new single family. Also some ADUs. Over the last 5 years, 20 ADUs, 20 accessory dwelling units have been built, kind of flying under the radar there. And the benefit there, those are considered very, very affordable housing. And so some good news there. I did also want to point out that one of the areas we still have challenges with, and I know this has been an issue going on for a long time, is the continuation of additional and new adult family home businesses that are locating into Lakewood. And over the last 5 years, there's been 81, including 18 last year. And again, those are not something that the city regulates. Those are regulated by the state of Washington through DSHS. And but again, it is something that we include in our annual housing report. And I think as of last week, there's about 130 of these businesses in Lakewood. So, but the good news is that there's a lot of activity happening in the housing market here in Lakewood, and particularly since if you look at a map of Lakewood, we're quote unquote built out. But again, folks who want to build housing and bring housing to our community are finding unique and different ways to do that. So again, overall, some good news there. And Mr. Buer will be presenting this report in detail sometime in March. Later this week on Thursday, the 21st, so 2 days from now, because today's Tuesday, from 9 to 11, the Puget Sound Regional Council is going to have their newly elected officials workshop. It's a virtual event, so you all don't have to drive to downtown Seattle. And it's a way for not just newly elected officials, but current experienced elected officials to learn about PSRC and kind of the regional approach they take on a number of fronts, a number of issues. And it's just a great opportunity to learn about what PSRC does. So if you have some time, I know we did put it on your calendar. Again, it's a virtual event, so you can zoom right in. And again, if you have the time, I would certainly encourage you to drop in and see that. And then next week on the 27th, Thursday, the 27th from 8 a.m. to noon, Association of Washington Cities will be having their annual City Actions Day. It's only 4 hours. Again, it's a virtual event. And this is an opportunity just to get an understanding of what AWC is doing on the ground, representing all 281 cities and towns in Washington State down in Olympia as part of the current legislative session. And again, I always come away learning something new from those events. AWC works very hard for all of the cities, and they do a great job for it. So again, if you have a chance, if not the whole thing, certainly jumping in for an hour or two, it'll be beneficial. So with that, Mayor, that's my report. And certainly if there's any kind of questions, I can try and answer them or get back with you. Thank you.
Very good. Ms. Farmer?
Mr. Caulfield, what's the number of households that the community survey is going out to? I thought I heard you say 27.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Farmer, 2,700.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, thank you.
2,700, my bad.
That was my exact question, Councilmember Farmer, thank you. Thank you for expanding the statistically significant value to the survey. I had some other questions about the behavioral health contact team comment, Mr. Caulfield. So the 11 folks that have been placed in Aspen Court recently, do we know what services that have been provided or that they've availed themselves of?
Not offhand, Mayor. I'll see if we can track down some information, but I don't have that at my fingertips.
No problem. And we have hopefully a tracking of perhaps the length of stay by folks?
Actually, Mayor, Aspen Court is doing that, and we're in somewhat regular contact with them.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually set up a mechanism so that they can report back to us.
Okay, and then I assume, obviously, we'll get those reports maybe on a monthly basis?
Yeah, we'll keep you appraised. Like, for example, we thought we had a couple who left and they were gone for 3 days, but then they came back. So it's kind of, yeah.
Must have been a better alternative for them if they were able to return, so that's a positive sign. So that's good. All right, well, if there are no other questions of Mr. Caulfield, Ms. Farmer, you had another question?
I know a follow-up question to the conversation you were just having. The services that the folks at Aspen Court may take advantage of, none of those are covered by HIPAA. For example, we're not in any violation to ask if they're receiving medical treatment or anything like that.
I do not know, Councilmember Farmer, but you're right. Even if they were, that information would not be provided to us because it is part of HIPAA. Yeah.
Good.
Right.
Thank you.
No, good point.
Yeah, I think the types of services that would be provided to us would be in the area of housing or reaching out to their families or transportation or getting driver's license or just trying to get just things like that, or counseling, mental health issues, mental health counseling, things like that. But yeah, we're not going to get into the HIPAA related stuff.
Mr. Anderson.
I just note on that if it's not personally identifiable, it can be provided. Most human services contracts for those type of services require the reporting of, there were 37 referrals to substance abuse. There were this, that. And so they can, as long as there's a big enough number that you don't know it was Joe Smith that was the one that went to that service. Whether, since we aren't paying for those services as a city, whether the provider wants to supply that's a separate question.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or clarifying comments? Great. Well, if not, we'll turn to council comments, and I'll start with Mr. Brandstetter tonight.
Mr. Mayor, I'm fine.
And I assume you have no other comments either?
No.
Okay. Councilmember Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say congratulations to everyone that got sworn in tonight and that were recognized. And sorry we could not be there, but it was great to see it all on screen. And thank you for the people who got honored for their service. And so I really appreciate what they do and what they bring to this community. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Farmer.
I want to echo Councilmember Bell's sentiments for all the folks who were sworn in this evening. I'm really sad not to have been there, but great job. And also to the award winners. I wanted to give my thanks to all of the folks who had a hand in the MLK video production. It was amazing, second year in a row, and keep up the good work. I'm just so incredibly impressed by the thoughtful, genuine nature of our celebrations, and it means a lot to me, and I hope it means a lot to Lakewood. I wanted to say I'm pleased that we're having conversations and partnering with the library district. The Pierce County Library System is a longtime service provider all throughout Pierce County. And I won't speak for the library, but I will speak for myself as a former library employee, that they have quite a presence here in Lakewood. And I'll remind folks that the first library opened up here in the Lakewood area back in 1947. And it opened up at its current location in 1963. And so that building will turn 59 years old this year. And that's amazing. That building has served the city well. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm super pleased about it being a community-led conversation about where we'd like to see this community go. I also wanted to maybe throw this out, Mr. City Manager. I was in contact with a resident this weekend whose property backs up to Fort Steilacoom Park, and they and their neighbors are good neighbors to the park, and they have been busy cutting down Scotch broom and making big piles of Scotch broom. And they didn't say anything about it. And I said, I will check and see if, I don't know if we have the ability, our Parks Department has the ability to haul away Scotch broom that people so willingly will cut down on our behalf. So I thought I would at least inquire if that was a possibility.
Actually, Councilmember Farmer, it is actually one of the main, what's the word I'm trying to look for? One of the main tasks that we take on Parks Appreciation Day for those who show up at Fort Steilacoom Park is actually yanking out Scotch broom. So we will certainly take advantage of that. So if you have a contact name or number or whomever, and yeah, we can help accommodate that.
I will follow up by email. Thank you very much. That's it for me.
Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, you might also offer those willing volunteers the appropriate tools, because I know there's a special tool for yanking the Scotch broom out.
A weed wrench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a couple quick things. One, I thought the MLK Day video was exceptional. I was very impressed. So kudos to all involved. And they're having hearings now this week on the 5670. That's the cities don't get to zone anymore bill. You can build fourplexes plus in single family zoning areas. And I heard this morning that there were 250 or 270 people signed in, and more like 50-ish that wanted to testify. The whole line of cities signed up to testify against it, obviously, but others who are for it. And it's going to probably get modified along the way. So something I know our folks down there are keeping an eye on it, but it's troublesome. But right now, I think one of the saving graces may be within the definition of what you have to be as far as your transit orientation, for lack of a better term. And that definition may change. But right now, Pierce Transit doesn't have the frequency of service that would trigger the original version of the bill, because it has to be 15-minute service. So then we're looking at whether the Sounder qualifies. And we don't have bus or rapid transit yet, or light rail yet, so it wouldn't apply there. But still, it's I think a dangerous step in the wrong direction. So stay tuned. The legislature is in session and we're in danger.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Moss.
I too want to congratulate our officers that were sworn in tonight, and also thank Mr. Boyd David Boyd for his service, and congratulations on his retirement. So that was great. I'm really proud of our youth council. They do such a fantastic job of presenting their programs and stuff to us. So I just want to make sure that is on the record, that how much we appreciate them and the job that they're doing. They're very professional. I like that. And I also wanted to say the Martin Luther King video was a lot of fun to do, and I'm glad everybody enjoyed it. But I also want to direct your attention to the Hidden Hero program, the video that just went out today from the Cole Park School District. So it is honoring some of our hidden heroes here in our city. And I wanted to propose to the group that we go virtual with our meetings through February and then take another look at it if that would be something that we would be interested in doing. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor Moss. I'll lead with your last comment there. I think there is consensus to continue going virtual because of the COVID peak issues, at least through February, if not March. And I chatted with Mr. Caulfield today. From a consistency standpoint, he would prefer we just go to March, the end of March, I believe. Is that right, Mr. Caulfield?
I just answered your question, Mayor, but ultimately it's up to the council in terms of what you want to do. But
right, no, I get it. I get it. Yeah. So I will throw it out there briefly for the rest of the group here so we can give some consistent guidance to Mr. Caulfield and staff. Are you good with month to month through February, or should we just jump and stay virtual through March? I'm fine with either. What's the consensus?
I would support going through March.
Okay.
I would also support going through March. However, if we're talking about a retreat in March, then there's a little bit of a disconnect between an in-person retreat and then, so we might, if we think about maybe moving our retreat to April, if that's too far back.
We can certainly discuss that. It may be okay to do April as long as we don't get into school district spring break schedules and those kinds of things for those of us who are parents.
First week of April.
Okay. Anyone else?
Could we just do just the retreat itself in person then and keep everything, and so that we don't get too far into April and we can still get the retreat done in March?
I think that's doable as long as Mr. Caulfield is comfortable with his staff with that. I think we were looking at the retreat potentially for what, March 12th, Mr. Caulfield?
That's correct, Mayor. I was going to reach out to all of you, either the 12th or the 26th. You could do the 19th, but Mayor, I think as you had pointed out, the 19th is when the Real 96 event is occurring that evening. So, so the 12th or the 26th.
I can do any of those dates.
Great.
I can do any of those dates. So if we want to lock it in.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it now.
That's right. Lock it in, people. Lock it in.
Yeah.
12th or the 26th. I'm okay for either date.
I don't have my calendar up, but I would think it would be fine.
Yeah, I have a preference for the 12th.
Mr. Anderson, you good with either?
Yeah, I just had something go away on the second date, so I know it's open on the 26th.
Ms. Bell, you said you're okay on the 12th?
I think so. Yes, I'm looking quickly at my schedule.
So let's put a hold on the 12th then. It sounds like that works for everybody right now, March 12th. Probably a 9 o'clock start. Would you like 08:30, Mr. City Manager?
I would suggest 8:30. That's traditionally get started. And then the question is, how long do you want to go? Do you want to go 4 hours, 5 hours? The recommended topic would be, homelessness, and really covering a number of points. One is what we're currently doing, the many programs, followed by, some ideas as we move forward. What more can the city do? Perhaps leveraging our ARPA dollars, and we can help brainstorm that. Also, at that point in time, it's hopeful that the Pierce County Council will maybe have some more information on where they are regarding with their homeless plan that they adopted late last year that was presented this body in December. You might remember Ms. Spear talking about that. But then probably most importantly, by that time, it is likely we'll have an understanding of where the state legislature is, particularly in the area of funding for homelessness. You may have seen last week that the governor has requested $815 million for that to be used statewide. So I think as you bring all of that together, and there could be, of course, other components to this, I think that would, that's a good retreat right there. Also, I would encourage, that we even incorporate, the housing, where we are from a housing standpoint as well. And so I think homelessness and housing, I think that's, a 4 to a 6 hour, morning and afternoon, but I'll leave it to you how long or how short you wish to go.
Well, I think a 4 hour morning and through lunch is probably fine. As we discussed, we will probably have feedback from Pierce County at that point in time because they passed a fairly significant budgetary line item to address homelessness in the county, and we can determine how a city like Lakewood fits into the overall county plan and vision. And we should have some feedback from the legislature after their 60-day plus or minus a few days session on the same issue. So we should be well positioned to have a productive meeting on March 12th.
Session ends the 10th, March 10th. So I'm not quite sure how much time that would give us depending. I mean, it'd be great if they ended on time, but just.
Well, I think with the state, given where the cutoffs and such are, I think we'll have at least a good understanding in a sense. Yeah.
So we should be good.
And I'm not into, you never know, but my understanding is that the state legislature, they truly want it to be a short session, and they
do. My understanding.
Yeah. All right, that's what I'm hearing as well. Yeah.
I'd like to throw out that 4 hours, it sounds like a long time, but it isn't necessarily if we do an icebreaker and kind of do some other activities. And that's a lot of information to absorb, kind of the state of everything and what Pierce County is doing and then to make some decisions. And so I would like the opportunity to consider maybe marrying a study session on a topic to maybe kind of tee things up so that if we wanted to make some decisions at the study set or at the retreat, or just to formulate what our goals are and what we hope to get out of the retreat, and then how that moves forward.
We can certainly make some policy directives, but we obviously wouldn't be taking any action. Obviously, at the retreat. But no, I agree. I think we'll have some opportunities there and some good information coming from both the county and the state on some proposals that we can tie in with and hopefully make good progress.
And we can make the connection to the SHAPE work.
Absolutely.
The initial and the work plan. Okay.
Makes good sense.
Thank you.
And I'd be happy to dispense with the icebreaker and just have coffee. So that will save us a half hour right there.
Snacks, right, Mr. Mayor? Snacks.
Exactly.
No snacks. I didn't hear snacks. I didn't hear a second on snacks. Coffee. We just heard coffee, everybody.
Yeah.
Just coffee.
There you go. Just coffee. I would say we'd be blessed to have snacks, but that would be an inappropriate metaphor at this stage in time. So I won't say that, Mr. Caulfield.
I don't know why you dragged me into this stuff.
Right, exactly. All right, my final comments. MLK video is tremendous. The group that put it together, Sil and Daryl on the Arts Commission, were very much a part of that, and the students were tremendous. I don't think anyone listening to those stories had much of a dry eye, especially listening to Joe Ethel. I mean, it was just tremendous. I thought, well done. So to the new hires with the Lakewood Police Department and the honorees tonight with the Bob Warfield and his group, I think that was, really nice to have as we head into the new year. Some really great new blood in the Lakewood Police Department that will have an opportunity and certainly the challenge and responsibility to engage with our community and to do it in a very transparent, positive way. And I'm confident that they'll rise to the standard and the challenge there. And I just want to thank staff for all the good work that they put into that resulted in the award of Lakewood being a healthy community for the climate change chapter work. I think that is fantastic. I understand that the Planning Commission has kind of bitten off a portion of that for a work plan for this year, and we'll learn more about the recommendations coming out of their work as well. So thanks to them for that. And that is all I have. I think we've got a number of events coming up that Mr. Caulfield outlined. So unless there are any further questions, comments, or alibis for the evening, I think we're adjourned.
Very good.